let's get that weed whacker started that just won't start. So every small engine that I have ever encountered in my life, it's always the carb. So what you want to do is just clean all the little jets out. This is about as simple as that. So take the cover off. Two little screws here, they're machine screws, but in this case we'll just use a flathead. So you just take that out. Alright, so we loosened our air filter intake. Make sure your gasket doesn't get annihilated. Disconnect your throttle cable, and now you have clean access for your little carb to come off. Just slip off these two lines here. Make sure you don't have your gas upside down so when you pouring out. But I like to just keep that in place. Make sure your little O-ring's good too. But this is where it gets tricky. So you take off these 4 screws, and then there are little pinholes in there that you have to clean, which I will show how. Alright, so I got the little cover off. This is where your jet pin lies. It's spring activated, so you see the fuel coming out perfectly. This is a brand new carb, so I don't need to clean this. But what you'll want to do with this, there's a screw there. You get a little spring that'll pop out with it, and then your little pin will come out. You just clean the jet if it's, you know, not spitting out fluid. In this case, for these very small carbs, I usually use a magnet wire since it's ultra thin gauge. You can just get every little pinhole you can get clean, and then so I know this is microscopic and you can barely see it, but there's a pinhole down in this circumference here that is usually the culprit on these little carbs. That's always my issue with those. So I always try and clean those the best I can with the magnet wire. If I don't have a magnet wire that fits, I just replace the carb for 12 bucks off eBay, which I already did. So what I'm going to do is, since it wasn't running right to begin with, I'm just going to spray it down with cleaner for now. I don't really need to get the pinholes, but carb cleaner should help a little bit. Clear out junk that's not supposed to be in there because it's still kind of running rough. And then you put your little cover back on. One thing I need to mention is these little covers are metallic and rubber. A lot of the times they do tend to wear out, which actually helps this little pin in initiating gas flow through the carburetor. So a lot of times these are junk, which in such a case you just replace the entire carb, which is it's cheap anyway. Make sure everything's aligned, and now what I like to do is, so I don't have alignment issues, is slip the gasket on first. Put your little screws back in first, obviously. Just like that, and boom. Screw your screw in. Close your lid and reattach your throttle cable. Alright, like that, and boom. A lot of the times with these small engines, it's always the carb. Even on the bigger model engines with carbs, the culprit's always usually the carb. You either can clean the carb or just end up replacing the entire thing, which is even easier. You just pop it off and pop it on. We're going to press this about 10 times, make sure gas flow is going in there, and you're good. See it flowing. If you have to take the carb off and buy a new one, slap a new one on, you literally just pull these off and then slip the new carb on. It tells you to have it on number two. Now we just rip it a few times and go. Fired right off the first try.